We're finishing up a practical sermon series today that I believe is meant, and I hope it has, improved your quality of life, and it's talking about the power of our decisions. Our decisions are incredibly important, and I think our decisions that we make end up making us, and I would say that the quality of your decisions, in many cases, affect the quality of your life. The quality of your life is sometimes affected by uncontrollable things. But in many situations, we make decisions and do things and go places and say things and begin things, and before you know it, it's affected our entire life and where we are today. You're here today with the family that you're with and the people that you're with because you made decisions along life's way that got you here. And so over the last few weeks, just to fill you in, here are the decisions we've made so far. We have decided to make good decisions. We're going to make good decisions in all that we do. We've decided to seek Christ first, seek Him first, His righteousness, His kingdom. We've decided to be consistent in how we live our lives. We have decided to be generous, as we just alluded to. And last week we decided to be faithful. We decided to be faithful. And I believe if you make these decisions and you live by these decisions, as Christ gives you strength, you will improve your quality of life in a significant way. And so today we're going to make another decision, our final decision of this series. It's kind of piggybacks from last week, because none of these decisions matter if we don't make the decision to finish what God has started in our lives. In other words, we're going to make the decision today to be committed. We're going to be committed. I preach on this a lot, because we need to be reminded about it a lot. Because we live in a culture and in a world where many things get started. Wives, don't look at your husbands. They're going to get to that project. Many things get started, but then they don't get finished. They get started, but then they don't get finished. I even read one time that stress related with life's projects and task has very little to do with the amount of tasks and responsibilities and projects, and more to do with the fact that we're stressed out because we haven't completed some of the ones that we started. Because I'm a believer that there's satisfaction and gratification and there's fulfillment in finishing something. And honestly, sometimes I can't really focus on the next thing, and maybe this is just my mental makeup. I have a hard time sometimes focusing on the next thing fully until I've finished what I started. I catch myself sometimes, even here at the office. I've been doing it this past week because this is end of fiscal year for the church, and so we're having a conference tonight, and I'm having to do reports for the church and send in all this information and tally stuff and create spreadsheets, all kind of stuff. And I catch myself with like all these tabs and screens open on my computer in the office, and I'm like, oh. So I'm better off just to finish one, close that tab, and then work on the next one. If we do not decide to press through the various seasons of life, the things that come our way, we will fail to finish. So what do you think separates an average person from an amazing, successful person? I say sometimes it's perseverance. It is perseverance. It is grit. It is a desire to finish. It is the refusal in their character to quit. It's easy to start. It's even often rare to finish. And if things get difficult, the easy thing to then do is to just give up. To just throw in the towel. So we're going to make a decision today. We're going to decide that when I commit, I don't quit. That may sound cliche, but I need you to be there with me. So you're going to repeat this after me. All right? When I commit, I don't quit. One more time. When I commit, I don't quit. And if you got a neighbor, just nudge them and say, you're not quitting. No, nudge them harder. Get their attention. When we commit to something, we're not going to quit on it. We're going to stay the course. So how do we, as disciples of Jesus, how do we strengthen our perseverance? Because everything in this world is sometimes against us. And certainly the enemy is. I'm not here to give credit to the enemy, but I do have a spiritual awareness of the enemy. And if we fail to have that awareness, we're going to get had. Some of y'all know what that means. And you don't want to get had, okay? You got to have awareness of the enemy that's fighting against you. And the enemy will even use outside resources like job, family, spouse, finances, health, all those other things to work against what God is trying to accomplish through you. Can I get an amen? We have all been there. You're focused, you're locked in, God's got you in a good season, you're pursuing Him, you're right on the path that He's got for you, you're right in this perfect will, and all of a sudden things start going sideways. And as I've heard it said many times, the enemy's not going to work against those that play on his team. We have to be persistent. We have to be committed. We have to persevere. It doesn't, as I've mentioned just recently, serving the Lord doesn't make it mean it's going to all go away and it's all going to be blissful and joyful and just rainbows. It doesn't promise that. But when we go through life situations and seasons, when we're followers of Christ, we don't do it alone. He is with us. Our church family is with us. Our brothers and sisters in Christ are with us. So how do we strengthen our character? Well, I want us to look at the words of the Apostle Paul. Paul gives this emotional farewell to his spiritual son in the faith, Timothy. And just to give you some context here, Paul is likely about to be beheaded in this moment, charged with the crimes that were put before him. And Paul is writing this letter to someone he loved dearly. And he's awaiting this execution in this dungeon. And he's trusting that the Lord will use him and use his words to speak to Timothy. And here's what he says. In 2 Timothy, he says, But you keep your head in all situations. Listen what he's telling him. Keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge all the duties of your ministry. Now Paul is in a situation, folks. Things are not going well for Paul. His life is about to be taken. He has faced serious persecution for preaching the gospel, standing for what he believed. And he should be the one getting the encouragement in this moment. And yet he's the one that's giving it, and he's not only giving the encouragement, he's encouraging Timothy, hey, go and do what you've been doing and what I've been doing. Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I'm reading this letter from Paul, I'm sitting here thinking, if this was 2 Ashley chapter 4, and Paul had written me this letter, I'm going to be like, man, you got yourself in a quite a situation. And you're telling me to go do what you've been doing? And Paul is giving him this encouragement. He says, For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. May God add his blessing to his word today. Here's what's so powerful, folks. Paul is at the end of his life. His race is over. He says it. He knows it. He understands what his situation is. But here's what's so powerful. Your race is not done. your race is not done. Maybe it's nearer to the end than others. But God has more for you to do. I just know it and believe it. Whether you've been serving the Lord for 20 minutes or 20 years or whatever, I believe God has more for you to do. He's just looking for a people who will be committed to the call and the purpose that He has. There's more for you to do. He has more plans and assignments for you. There's more people to love. There's more generosity to be given. There's more hope to share, more friendships to make, more addictions to be broken, more people to be set free. God has more for you. You see, when we commit to God, we don't quit because we're finishers. How do we finish a race? We finish a race by running it for Him and not for ourselves. We do it for Him and not for ourselves. It just hit me. I've been preparing this sermon all week, had no connection. But the Ironman is this weekend, right? I promise you there's people in that Ironman race that just wanted to quit at times. I quit before it ever started. Because I never started. I've heard someone say one time the hardest part is just starting. Not a race, but anything. Sometimes the hardest part is just starting. Y'all crazy. I started grad school. It was pretty easy. I turned in an application and $25 and they let me in. The hard part was sitting there at 2 a.m. trying to finish a paper before a deadline and having to work the next morning while I had a newborn at home. That was the hard part. Because sometimes we can start things and we don't finish it. You see, when you look at the life and ministry of Jesus, it's indescribably powerful and emotional to look at how His life ended on the cross. That moment on the cross, right before Jesus looked up to heaven, as He hangs on this cross we sang about this morning, right before He commits His spirit and breathes His last breath, He looks to the Father and says, "It is finished." He's like, "Dad, I did everything you asked me to do." Why? Because He ran the race for the Father and not for Himself. He ran it for His Father. He pursued the purpose of God. And when He had a painful moment, what did He do? He just took the next step. When they hated Him, He just took the next step and loved them. When He stumbled on the road to Calvary, He just took the next step and got back up. When they mocked Him and persecuted Him on the cross, He just took the next step and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." From the very moment He started, He decided, hey, I'm ready for this. I'm committed to this. I'm going to be consistent here. I'm going to be devoted. I'm going to be generous and faithful. And when I finish this, I'm going to be a committed finisher. Christ has given us the best example of what it means to start something and see it through to completion. Even when it hurts. Even when it stinks. Even when life gets difficult. And seasons come our way. Even when the path is just easier to give up on. And the devil wants you to just stop, and he's telling you every day, just give up. It's just not worth it anymore. But you're going to make this decision. When I commit, I don't quit. This week I was driving through St. Elmo community over in Chattanooga. I was on my way back from a meeting in Nashville, and there was a traffic jam on the interstate, so I got off and came the back way, and it took me through St. Elmo, and I'm riding through St. Elmo. You know, the speed limit's really slow. They're like 25 or something. So I'm just creeping along. I'm enjoying the scenery. I love those homes through there. And as I'm driving, I'm always looking around. I see this yard sign in front of a home on my right. This is Wednesday, guys, and I already knew what I was preaching this week. And I see this yard sign, and it's just a white, simple yard sign, one with metal stakes, corrugated sign you put in the ground. And it's white with black letters on it. No pictures, nothing fancy, just a simple sign. And in bold letters on that sign in front of these people's home, it said, "Don't give up." Don't give up. That's all it said. Don't give up. Wow, what an encouragement. We should just pass them out. Put them in our yards. Don't give up. I mean, it probably took me 4 seconds to see the sign and then drive past it, but it felt like an eternity. Because as soon as I read it, I started thinking and it started processing. And I'm obviously thinking about my message today and running the race and being committed. And so it moved me so much as I passed it, I looked in my mirror to see the other side because I wanted to hear it again. Don't give up. Well, it wasn't on the other side. They had to go and make it even better, and it said, take one day at a time. Don't give up. Take one day at a time. The Bible tells us, we just read it, right, recently? Don't worry about the other things. Seek Him first. All His righteousness, His kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. God sent me by today to tell a church and some people, don't give up. Be committed. Take one day at a time. Maybe life's going okay for you right now. But I promise you, you're connected to people who life is not so great. And maybe you need to be the encourager to call somebody. Hey, this is practical. This is a practical series, right? Make a decision today to be committed to helping somebody else not give up. Can we do that? Let's do that. Text somebody today that you know is really on the brink of just bowing out. And say to them, don't give up. Take one day at a time. And I'll tell you today, I'm speaking it into your life. Whatever you might be going through, maybe it's simple. Maybe it's nothing that's real drastic or big. Don't give up on God. Don't give up on your purpose. Don't give up on your calling. Don't give up on what He started in you. Lean into Him. He'll take care of you. Paul goes on in the next verse to Timothy after he's spoken these words to him. He says, now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for His appearing. Don't give up. Take one day at a time. Be committed. Finish the race that God has started inside of you. Don't give up. Stand with me if you would. Yesterday, and if this gentleman hears this message, then hope it blesses him again. But yesterday, I told you I was able to bless this gentleman with a gift of $100. Again, I've been connected to this guy loosely, and but didn't know his story. Didn't know his story at all, or nothing really about him personally much. Our kids know each other, but anyway, he comes up to me at my tent where I'm sitting at J-Fest, and he starts talking to me, and I said, who are you with? Is your family with you? And he was like, no. He's like, I'm here with Celebrate Recovery. I said, oh. I might have even had a weird look on my face. I hope not. I said, oh, you're just volunteering? He's like, yeah, I'm serving at the tent that we have here. I was like, man, that's awesome. I said, that's so cool. And I patted him on the arm. And I said, man, I have no idea why he was in Celebrate Recovery, but I just patted him on the arm and I said, I'm proud of you. again, don't have no clue what this guy's dealing with. I said, I'm proud of you. And I looked at him, I said, don't give up. I heard that in a good sermon recently. I said, man, don't give up. And he looked at me, he said, I'm on step 5 of 12. I said, don't give up. I said, stay the course. Finish the race. And I looked at him, I said, I don't always talk like this. I'm preaching this tomorrow. But I felt led to tell him that. And again, for the first time, that happened twice, but for the first time he started crying. This big grown man. Right out in public, just started crying. Matter of fact, Joey Orr was standing there with me. He saw me and was standing there with me when all this took place. And this man started crying, and I looked at him and I said, man, I said, the enemy's going to try to tell you to stop, to walk away, that this is too hard. There's an easier path. I said, but God has started something in you that he wants to finish. And he looked at me, he said, Ashley, he said, back in January, I knew I was missing something. And he said, I got on my knees one day and I prayed and said, God, what is it in me? What is it in me that I'm missing? He said, I thought it was me. This is what this man told me. He said, I thought it was me. And he said, God spoke to me and was like, you're missing me. And he said, I cried out to God and said, God, I need your son in my life. I need to be changed. I need you to do something new in me. And he said, actually in January, God made a difference in my life. And I got connected to Celebrate Recovery. And now I'm on step 5. And I'm believing God's going to. I said, buddy, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. I just know it. This man reached and bear hugged me, man. Just hugged me. And I looked at him and I said, hey, you find me. You call me if you need support. If you need encouragement, if you're having a bad day and if you're about to give up, you call Ashley Mew. I said, I've got my own struggles. And you might see me struggle, but you won't see me quit because I've got a Lord that stands by my side. His Spirit lives inside of me, and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to take it one day at a time. Even if it's slow going, I'm going to stay in there, and I'm going to stay committed, and I'm going to see it through. And I want you to finish the race as well. And the same goes for all of you here today. Don't give up. Finish the race. Be committed. Amen? Amen.